As for background, I studied English and Spanish in undergrad at UCSB. I finished up in 3 years and kind of looked around and was like, well, I'm done. Might as well add on a master's. And no, it was the perfect choice for me. It was a consolidated version of an MBA for me. And I was able to keep my time at UCSB at 4 years and still get 2 degrees, which was wonderful. And as for what I'm doing now, I am currently a product marketing manager at Google. I've been here for about 2.5 years now. And prior to that, I was in partner marketing and product marketing at Box. I can also speak to a slightly different perspective, maybe, of the finance class, which is I found that it's just as important to figure out what you don't love in this world as much it is to figure out what you do love. I am not naturally a super mathy person. It's just not totally my thing. And so it wasn't probably my naturally favorite class as part of MTM, but it was super important for me to learn and super important for me to absorb. Equally so, I think that the field project was extremely helpful. I think so much of the tech world or just the corporate world in general, you have to understand the jargon, you have to understand the processes and like how to work with funky people, as Andres mentioned. So that for me was truly a really helpful experience in shaping, okay, what does it look like to actually have to work with a difficult team? What does it look like to have to present to C-suite executives and everything in between? It really did help a ton going into Box and then ultimately Google too. In terms of my experience working with other marketers at both medium-sized and large companies, the vast majority do not have technical degrees. The vast majority are from humanities backgrounds. And I think, as both of y'all have already said, truly they're phenomenal communicators, and that makes them good at what they do. I have folks who I work with who are sociology majors or history or English like me and everything in between. And truly, it just gives us, I think, a much more diverse set of perspectives and understandings of what it means to collaborate, communicate, and ultimately tell stories. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I'm a product marketing manager at Google. I specifically work on the Android team. So Android is the mobile OS that covers over 3 billion phones these days around the world, which is pretty neat. I work on platform and releases. So things like, if you all are familiar with the yearly updates to your phones, we sort of have a set of features that come out every single year, and we have to consider how do we tell a story that's cohesive about those and how do we package them together and share that with the world. I've also worked on things like physical safety features. So features on your phone like car crash detection, emergency location services, emergency contacts, earthquake alerts, all that not so fun stuff. And really the way that I would describe product marketing to folks who aren't as familiar is, if you were to imagine a Venn diagram, one circle would be those who are building the product. So eng and technical folks who are actually in there every day building something. The other circle would be those who are on the go-to-market side. So those who are selling, BD, that kind of thing. So we sit right at the middle of those two circles. And our responsibility as product marketing managers is to translate that technical information and make it very tangible, legible, and meaningful to consumers. So if you were to tell me something like, oh, my screen got 7,000 nits brighter, that doesn't probably mean anything to me. But if you were able to compare it maybe to a previous version of a phone and say, oh, it's actually 111% brighter, that all of a sudden means something significant. So I'm a huge fan of the place that I sit. Like, being able to work on both technical and non-technical things is super special. You get a very nice, I think, cohesive perspective of a product and a launch process too. I think that diversity is super important. You're going to hear that as a buzzword when you're interviewing at any probably company these days, but especially the large ones. And when you're working with a team, the more diversity, not just in socioeconomic status or race or religion, but in ways of thinking and ways of approaching problems, all of that's super important. And so having exposure just to more perspectives and ways that people think, I think, is really valuable. When you go out in the real world, not everyone's going to be the exact same, and that's actually a really good thing. So learning how to both address the gaps and bridge the differences is critical. My experience might be a little different just because I graduated in the midst of COVID. It was 2020, so it was a really funky time for a lot of people. I remember doing, though, about 100 informational interviews. So just cold calls, like reaching out to folks on LinkedIn, finding mutual connections and whatnot, and having more casual conversations around, what are you doing? And do you like what you do? And what are you learning about that? And what do you not like? And that really helped me hone in on my thesis about what I wanted to do after graduating. So it was COVID times. Despite that, by the grace of some person in the universe, I was able to get a job, I think, in June. So right around when we were graduating. Again, it was all virtual. It was a different time. So it's good that no one else is graduating into COVID. I'll just say that. Just Gemini, so Google's LLM. Truly, the special thing about it is the fact that it is just so context aware. It understands your emails, it understands your slides, your messages, your photos, and everything in between. The fact that you're not just sending prompts out into an abyss, but really it's in a secure place and truly understanding you and all sides of your content, your technology. It's beyond helpful, both for professional applications, personal ones. I'm a huge fan.